Okay guys, this is my spare that's taken out of the Mini Cooper. And if you watched my other video how to put the back end back on the Mini Cooper, you'll see that I had trouble putting this back on, and I'll show you why. So that's where the tire normally mounts, and apparently when I took off the rear hitch, which is right here, to repaint it and refinish it in my other video, and after I got it back, when I took it off and taking off the spare, I noticed the spare was flat. I go, that's kind of odd. So I just figured that all the air leaked out of it. But apparently when this hitch is in, this tire, spare tire, interferes and hits this. There's not enough clearance. So basically what U-Haul did when they put this on, they couldn't fit the spare back on, so they let all the air out. Actually, I cut off this here just to try to make it fit better. So I had to make some mods to be able to drop the spare a little bit lower, about 0.8 inches, to be able to clear everything. And I'll show you what I did on the bench. So after you drop your spare tire, one of the first things you gotta do is take off this spacer bracket that helps the tire sit flat underneath the car. So there are just 3 nuts, 10 millimeters. You just take those off. So for it to sit lower, I had to add on some foam pad. I glued that on with a JB plastic weld here, plastic bond. And what I used was, I got on Amazon these foam pads, the high density foam pads. I think they're used to go underneath like washing machines to keep them from vibrating. And they're about 0.8 inches thick. So those worked well. And you get 8 in a pack, but you basically only need 2 to cut up. Let's see if I can get the number here. And basically you just trim them 1/2 by 3.5. Use that JB weld. Use a clamp to hold it so you get that curvature, and you glue those in and hold them in. That's one of the things you need to do, to drop about 0.8 inches. Then when I took it off, it has this extender hose to allow you to inflate it and check the air in your spare. This thing was leaking, so I went ahead and changed that. So again, on Amazon you can get another one. This one's about 13 inches, was a little bit longer. And then you can get one of these 90-degree fittings for a regular valve. So basically you just get a couple of those. You have to use the same nut here to hold it on. There's a lot of different ones of these, different lengths that you can get. So basically that's what I did on that. Now what's going to be a pain in the butt is getting this out, because you need to get a longer one of bolts, 10 millimeter bolt. And you want to use a 10 millimeter because of the attachment to be able to pull it and install it back. So you need the 10 millimeters 1.5 inch thread for this. And what's going to be a pain in the butt is because this is Loctite in, which is sits into this nut groove. So basically on the underside, it would normally look like this with the head of the bolt, which is a 17 millimeter. And basically you cannot take that off because it's Loctite on. So I had to use a grinder, and I basically grind the head of that nut off. So I would grind, I had to grind this head off. So basically that's what you have here. Grind it off, allow you to slide it out. And then I had to order a new one. So I was able to get away with, I just needed one that was 150 millimeters long. 10 millimeters by 1.5, which is the same threads as the old one. And I was able to get it at bellmetric.com and order a new bolt and a washer in case you end up destroying your old washer as you're grinding it off. That will end up being assembled. Okay, the whole key is to be able to extend this whole thing, which the tire sits in, longer. So it would end up dropping it like 0.8 inches, about this much. So basically I would need a spacer in there. and it has to be keyed. You see there's a key in here, and when I was trying to take it off, I actually bent this key, so I put some JB Weld, straightened it up, and glued it back in, and that key lines up with this hole. So basically I just went on E-plastics. Actually I made a metal spacer first to see if it would fit, some spare, but I was able to buy some solid 2-inch plastic from E-plastic. You gotta buy it in 1 foot lengths, and then put it on the lathe, laid out a hole right in the middle, and do the pilot hole all the way through, and then I cut off the section that I needed, and then I just used a roll pin and used the JB Weld and glued in a roll pin there, so that basically fits in there. Then this would be keyed with that hole, so that way all my key alignments are straight, and then that gives me my extra little height in there. So I just need to put the nut in there, put some Loctite in there, and then the thing's assembled. Okay, I used the blue thread lock. The blue thread lock locks it temporarily, so that way if I ever need to get it back off I can, whereas the red locks it in permanently. So there it's assembled. I got my spacer in there. I got my new nut up there with the thread lock, and since I couldn't find exactly the right size washer, but that's close enough, that washer is in there. The hole's in the back end. I got my extender, and just need to drop in the tire now. So I mentioned in my other video, I actually had to repaint the rim because there was a lot of rust, and you can see how stuff sits in there and it doesn't drain well, ends up rusting. So I repainted the rim. I bought this rear tire cover that goes on a spare on the back of a Jeep or something. Cut out a hole so that the fitting could fit through. Cut a hole for the valve fitting, just to make sure water doesn't collect underneath here. I just cut some drain holes around it, so that way water could drain out if it needs to. So I'm gonna go ahead and assemble it and put it back on the car. Okay, so here's the tire mounted back onto the plastic tray, and basically I like the longer valve that's 13 inches. This allows me to run it underneath out this little groove and be able to fasten it back in here. Another thing is when you put this tire back on, it's actually keyed. So I actually put a white mark on that little raised key, which keys with a spare, so it allows you to put it back in the same spot. So it makes it easier to find when you're lining it back up. So let's get it back on the car. So here's the spare spacer mounted back underneath. You see I have the pads. That'll make it drop about 0.8 inches, and hopefully it should clear this tow hitch bar. So if you never put a spare back, it basically goes that way where the valve sits toward the back, and so you can see it straight down there. And what they give you in your little set is this handle, long handle. This allows you to reach down there, and that's why you need the same size bolt to replace the same size bolt. Because so this is the bracket. So you reach down there, you grab it, and you need the 10mm, the same size, and it'll pull it up and lock it in. Okay, that was a nice tight fit. I had to pull up really hard on this to get that in, so I know down on the bottom it's a nice tight fit, so it's not wobbling around basically. So here's the spare on the bottom. It's gonna sit back down a little bit lower, and I got my I can feel it here. I got a almost a zero clearance with that hose coming up. It's right up between that, but the spacing between the tire and the tow hitch is about the spacing of that hose that's running up to the top. So doesn't drop it too much. Still got my valve here I can reach. See, it's probably a little bit, maybe it's probably a little bit lower, but more than enough clearance. So now I go ahead and put my car back together and put the trunk back together, and I'm all done. Now I got a spare tire in case if I get it flat. So hope this video helps you if you have a tow hitch and your spare won't fit, how to drop it a little bit so you get everything to fit.